Closing the inequality gap, 13,000 disadvantaged students will be getting more help to stay in school. Today's the day groups of 5 from the same household can dine together at F&B outlets. And a 4-year-old boy who's suffering from a rare medical condition linked to COVID-19 in children is out of ICU. Welcome to The Big Story. I'm Olivia Quay. You can subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode. A pilot program to help underprivileged students stay in school is going nationwide. Over the next few years, the Uplift Enhanced School Resourcing Program will be expanded to about 100 primary and secondary schools across Singapore. Well, this means these schools will have after-school support and customised holiday programs for their disadvantaged students, with around 13,000 standing to benefit. The program has been piloted since 2019, supporting over 2,000 students each year. Speaking at a virtual event today, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong stressed the importance of attending school, particularly for kids from troubled homes.
Our primary and secondary schools develop each child's strengths and teach them the knowledge and life skills they need as they grow up. School is also where children can be guided by their teachers, make friends and develop character, and focus on learning. For children from troubled homes, the school environment plays an even more crucial role. Such children benefit from additional attention from teachers who act as significant adults. Someone whom the children can relate to, can give them good advice, and can sustain their interest in attending school. Someone to encourage them to discover their strengths and strive for their dreams. It's thus particularly worrying when some of these children stop attending school regularly. We must do all we can to help them enroll in school, stay enrolled, and do well in their studies.
With more is our education correspondent, Amelia Teng. Good to see you again, Amelia. So, how do schools identify, first of all, students for the Uplift Enhanced School Resourcing Program? What circumstances, for example, do these kids face at home?
So typically, these children are absent from school for prolonged periods of time, and this prevents them from progressing to the next level in school. And they come from lower income families who are facing difficulties in, making ends meet, or some may have lost their jobs. And many times, these parents don't have the bandwidth to support the children or even send them to school regularly. So sometimes families could also be facing marital problems or conflicts, and then these things hinder the children's learning at home and makes it difficult for them to focus on studying.
Right, and of course, like the HBL, the rounds of HBL that, the kids have had to go through over the past year haven't made it easier. Well, Amelia, moving on, there are 2 other programs, the Uplift Community Pilot and Kids Start, still both in the pilot stage. Are there plans to take those nationwide as well?
Yes, so the plan eventually is to expand these programs nationwide in the years ahead. The Uplift Community Pilot began last year in 4 towns, and this is a program that kind of involves volunteers checking in regularly with families, befriending them, and then 8 more towns will be included from next year. And Kids Start, which is a similar program, but for younger children of preschool age, is also on track to support 5,000 kids by 2023. And this will be expanded nationwide after 2023. For Kids Start, it's helping also low-income families, but with children up to 6 years old in a variety of areas, including like child development, nutrition, parent-child relationship and interactions through home visits as well by volunteers, for example.
Right. Well, Amelia, we have just talked about 3 programs. There are many more out there as well. How do all these programs, like, Uplift and Kids Start, all work together?
Yeah. So there are many program names and acronyms involved, but essentially it's about helping families, right? And to help families help the children, because as PM said in his speech today, the work of leveling the playing field for children goes beyond schools and the education system, and it has to start at home. So to help children in these circumstances, you have to help the families too. And that's why Kids Start and Uplift often make use of people or volunteers to befriend families and to go to their homes and check in regularly with them and to find out what their problems are and how best to help them. And when it's possible to refer them to the channel of help that they need. So yeah, there are many programs, and a lot of them are led by different agencies, MOE, MSF, and even MOH. But essentially, it's about getting the parents to be, to be involved in their children's development and their education, so that the kids won't be stuck in the same circle of poverty and can go beyond and progress.
Well said, Amelia. Thank you so much for taking the time today. That was Amelia Teng, education correspondent for the Straits Times. You can read her stories on this at straitstimes.com. From today, 5 people from the same household can dine together at F&B outlets, and restaurants are being reminded to check patrons' SingPass app or NRICs for proof of residence for groups of more than 2. Well, at lunchtime, our photographers spotted a few families of 5 having a meal in a mall, but for the most part, there were more people dining in pairs. Authorities warning that errant individuals will be fined and F&B outlets will be subject to immediate closures if the rules aren't followed. Well, let's find out how one bistro is reacting to today's easing. Joining me now is Anthony Yeoh, chef and owner of Summerhill in Clementi. Welcome to The Big Story, Anthony. So how was today's lunch service? How did your staff check that patrons, they came from the same household?
So easiest way, of course, is to check everyone's IC. So far, there hasn't been any issue with that, mostly because it's families with young children. I think we're taking the cue from what Lawrence Wong said during the press conference, which is, usually with families with young kids, you can kind of safely assume that they're from the same household. So that hasn't really been an issue yet.
And are you expecting more people, that it may not be as clear that they're from the same household, that these groups will come in over the weekend?
Yes, so that's where it kind of gets a bit tricky when you already have a longer process than is normal to check people in with trace together and checking their vaccination status. Now there's another step. It's almost like going through immigration or like passport control now, as well as seating the guests. So I think that's going to pose new challenges, probably some things that we haven't expected or experienced before, which we come to kind of expect over the past year and a half to try and roll with the punches, but it does get also a bit tiring for us.
I'm sure. So on that, how have the last few months been for you and Summerhill, coping with the constant changes? And now that dining rules have been eased, how do you see the rest of your year panning out?
Well, we're hoping that the ease more, because really what's going to help us improve from what the past few months have been is when we can have groups of 5 or hopefully groups of 8 or more who are not from the same household, because that same household thing still is a big restriction on people celebrating birthdays or friends just being able to get together on a Friday night on the weekends, which is when restaurants make most of their money, and we haven't been able to experience those kinds of sales and get that kind of business back at all for the past few months. Even when restrictions have been eased, there's a sense that it's very tentative. So there isn't that rush to go out and eat anymore. I think there's a sense of fatigue about it as well. So I'm really, really hoping that if restrictions do ease properly and in a way that everyone can enjoy the festive period, which, as everyone knows, is the peak period for restaurants. That's when we're all hoping to at least recoup some of the losses that we've made through the year.
Right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that on the show, Anthony. All the best to you and Summerhill. In other COVID-19 news, a 4-year-old boy suffering from a rare inflammatory syndrome linked to COVID-19 in children is out of intensive care. He was transferred to a high dependency ward yesterday after spending more than a week in ICU, where he was intubated and placed on a ventilator. His mother telling ST he still cannot eat solid food but has started to drink small amounts of milk. None of the animals at Singapore Zoo or wildlife parks has been vaccinated against COVID-19, and there are currently no plans to do so. Mandai Wildlife Group telling ST that more understanding of vaccine safety and efficacy for animals is needed. This comes after 4 lions at the night safari tested positive. The Singapore Prison Service updating yesterday that several inmates and staff at Changi Prison Complex's Institution A1 have tested positive for COVID-19. Among them, Malaysian drug trafficker Nagendran K. Damalingam, who was granted a further stay of his execution following confirmation of his PCR test. He had transient contact with 2 staff who had tested positive. Affected housing units in Institution A1 have been locked down. And wedding venue Orange Ballroom and wedding organizer Osman Arifin were charged today with flouting COVID-19 rules. Orange Ballroom is accused of allowing 235 people to attend a wedding on January 30th, a time when only 100 people were allowed. While Osman allegedly failed to ensure the cap on attendees, as well as not ensuring guests stuck to their allocated attendance time. Both parties are expected to plead guilty. Also in the news, a construction firm was charged today over alleged unauthorized works that led to a flood in Pasir Ris on August 20th. You may remember these images. 13 vehicles partially submerged that day and several motorists needing help to evacuate from their vehicles. The incident also caused a traffic jam that lasted 2 hours. The affected junction is not flood-prone, according to PUB. Singapore Press Holdings CEO Ng Yat Chung says the door has not closed for the company to consider a better offer than Keppel's. It comes after Keppel raised its bid for the final time by 12% in an attempt to beat a rival offer from Cascade and Peak. Under the terms of the Keppel offer, SPH is permitted to enter into another agreement with any other party, but a competing offer must be announced by December the 1st. At the COP26 climate conference, Singapore's Minister for Sustainability and the Environment, Grace Fu, urging developed countries to keep their promise of channeling $100 billion a year to help less wealthy nations in their climate actions. So far, the pledge made back in 2009 has only seen $80 billion transferred. Here's more from our climate change editor, David Fogarty.
So Singapore here is playing a key role. Minister Fu is a co-facilitator with Norway on a very important part of the negotiations covering carbon markets. This is part of the Article 6 of the Paris Agreement that was agreed in 2015. So carbon markets really need final rules and regulations to be agreed, and carbon markets need these rules so countries can trade carbon offsets between themselves in a way that ensures that the emissions reductions are real and genuine.
Well, those are our top stories for today. Visit straitstimes.com for more news and our YouTube channel for more videos. Subscribe by hitting the red button below. I'm Olivia Quay. See you tomorrow on The Big Story.